This is definitely a very different type of podcast episode. I originally had Rob Kazen come on because he's a friend of mine. He's a client of Vendoroo's. He's got his own maintenance operation. They've been doing really, really well with it. And I wanted to dive into this kind of is it worth it to have a maintenance operation? Is it worth it to use AI when it's your own maintenance operation? Those kinds of things. We got into a little bit of that, but what we really uncovered is that Rob's gone through a year where he had kind of never really had a zest for the business, didn't really fall in love with the business. And in this last year, he found it. He found that passion for the business. And in finding that passion for the business, he's unlocked much more success, much more financial success than he's had before. So this conversation is really just kind of getting there and those effects and doing that on top of the conversation around having a maintenance department, AI, doing it right, those kinds of things. But it's just a really kind of vulnerable back and forth between me and my buddy, who are both just kind of not really saying we have answers, but looking for answers and talking about lived experience. So enjoy this conversation with Rob Kazen. Welcome to the Property Management Frame Breakers podcast. I'm your host, Pablo Gonzalez, and I am here to introduce you to the folks in the property management space that have broken the frame of what you may believe was possible. This podcast is presented by Vendoroo. It is your all-in-one AI solution for resolving your maintenance needs. Let's go. Man, it's funny. I just got the email from, the ayahuasca thing's been calling me lately, man. I feel like I'm in need for it. I just don't have I need to figure out time to do it type of thing.
Yeah. I'm kind of scared. I got this one guy here that he went down to Mexico and did all this shaman stuff, training, and he's doing the bufa, which is that frog.
Yeah. I've heard that's super intense.
It's way intense. So I'm not sure if my little pea brain can handle something like that. So I've been yeah, maybe next time, maybe next time. But
yeah.
So on the maintenance end, I can definitely bring some insight regarding that. I won't bring it from a position like Deb Newell, because she's, she got that shit whipped and she knows exactly what to do. But I have failed in just about everything that I've done on the maintenance end, because we built it from scratch in the very beginning, not knowing anything. And it's taken many years for me to educate myself on how the operation should be ran before we even got to the point where we were running it remotely close to what it should be like. And even just this last year, we made monumental steps to right the wrongs. In other words, because I always used the maintenance department as a tool and never really looked at it as a profit center. This is going to sound so stupid, but really the purpose when we built it with my dad was a long time ago. But now, and where I'm going with this full circle is now that we're digging in the numbers, I've hired some help, and so now we're hitting profit percentages and stuff like that. I got everybody on board. So I just taken, the training book from Deb, from Tony Klein, from everybody that I knew, I just never put into play in our maintenance company until recently. So yeah, we can talk about maintenance.
Yeah, I think that's a really good, what were the lessons learned doing it, of, what you did wrong, I think is a really good conversation, man.
What I did wrong is didn't pay attention to it a lot sooner, because my bank account would be sitting a lot fatter if I had.
So tell me a little bit about that, right? So you talk to me about the transition from tool to profit center.
The turning point actually came when our management company was turning good numbers and everything was going well, but we were still struggling on the maintenance end. And that's when I needed to turn around and focus on something else. And that's when we really started digging into the maintenance and the profitabilities that we weren't making, and then looking at benchmarks for other maintenance companies around the nation, that I got information on. And then it was just a gut punch going, dang, man, I've missed out on so much. If I just cared a little bit more about the maintenance end of it, we were just keeping things kind of cobbled together enough to where we were able to support the management company fairly well. But looking back, man, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars that I could pay myself that since it's not there and I didn't pay attention to it earlier, then it's a loss, so.
Super interesting. What was the initial insight around starting a maintenance company if it wasn't for profit?
Back then, just my dad and I, we got tired of the accountability and service quality of using outside vendors, and we were on their timelines.
Yeah.
If we needed somebody to rush over to this house because we had a situation going on and we're trying to provide some good customer service to a tenant, I didn't have anybody to grab and say send out. I had to call somebody, hey man, can you help me out? And they're like, no, I'm sitting down eating with dinner with my parents, or whatever, my kids. All right, let me call the next guy. And then it's just like a customer service sucks because you're relying on other people. So we felt like we would gain more control of the management company. And that was 16 years ago.
Yeah.
So
So for 16 years, it was kind of like about control. And then like how long ago did you start actually making it a profit center?
this last year,
This last year.
that
Interesting.
I mean, seriously, the first time I looked at a P&L to
Yeah.
see where our numbers were based off of other, I got information, I got numbers from other or maintenance companies to help me understand what my numbers should look like, or what they can look like rather. And it was
Yeah.
just like totally flipped opposite of what the good maintenance company runs like. And then here's mine, just
Yeah. Are
negative.
you, are you comfortable discussing those numbers on the show?
I mean, I'd have to dig in. I mean, it's not that I'm not comfortable,
Hmm.
but there's really nothing there the lesson is, pay attention, like get interest. I don't know. I'm a different breed, man. You and I are with all these property managers, and they're really high level 10 people, and they think, sleep, drink, eat, everything property management. I, on the other hand, have very little interest in it, to be honest with you, but the
Yeah.
payout is great. So, and then plus this is family business, and it's been here for 35 years. My dad started a long time ago, and it's a legacy, and I'm really interested in the success, but I've never been the type that I've just been so wrapped up in every little aspect of it. I always kind of ran the management and the maintenance company kind of like a shoot from the hip. I had good reactions to things through the years
Mhm.
when something came up. Hey, here's what we need to do. Let's go ahead and get this thing going. But I never had
Yeah.
a lot of systems and structure behind it. So
Mhm.
every day was either remembering how something went the last time in your
Yeah.
head,
Yeah.
or it was a new experience that we were able to kind of navigate, but never document. We just started building our policies and our procedures this last year with Tony, where we're really not nailing down on our systems and structures and stuff like that. So now at this point, we have a legitimate structured company, and it's running, and this on the management end,
Hmm.
and it's operating at a high level. Our maintenance company, like I said, was just the polar opposite because we just never really looked into it too much. After my dad died, even more interest was lost for a while. I was lost,
Yeah.
and then
How long ago was that?
he died in 2015.
15. Okay.
Yep, so 10 years ago, 11 years ago. So I took a period of kind of like distantness. I mean, I was running the company, don't get me wrong. I was here every day doing all that stuff, but I wasn't here
Yeah.
every day with it. We were just making it function. And we still did all right with it, not having really any guidance or anything backed up, because my dad ran the company shooting from the hip too.
Yeah.
He started out on 5x8, index cards. That was a long time ago.
Do
But
you
anyways,
feel do you feel like you found like a passion for it recently, or was it more just kind of like there was just too much pain to like be running it the old way, so you invested in this and now it's just like better?
man, you hit the nail on the head, because I wanted to grow. I know no matter what, I wanted to grow, and what was holding me back was me. My unorganized ass, my unstructured ass, my lack of kind of care. But then I started to get more involved in, as we're hiring new employees, I care about their lives, and then I start realizing it's more about me. It's less about me and more about the company that my dad's legacy, in what
Mm.
direction that I want to go. Now it's like, okay, I get it. This is a legacy. It's been here for 35 years. It'd be freaking cool if it was here at 50 years, if it was here at 75 years, in Fort Worth, in this area, operating at a high level. So then I start thinking in layers, like my kids. And then I'm thinking about the employees that we're supporting in their lives, because I know all their family and their kids and stuff like that. So it's just one day it just like it got bigger for me. And so now my interest, so back on your where you were going with this. I'm still interested. I'm not as interested as I see other people, and I probably should be in that direction still because I love to fish, I love to go off road, and I love to do all these other things. And that kind of occupies my mind space quite a bit, and it's hard to get that out and focus on work sometimes. But I am really enjoying the structure and running of a business, and I get the opportunity to actually do two of them at once. So now the systems and everything that's operating over on the management side, I'm slowly but surely bringing over into the maintenance side. I've almost got myself to the point where I can kind of pluck myself all the way out. And I'm really one hire away from that. And it's a maintenance manager over here to do some of the crap that I'm still doing on the maintenance end. But yeah, so I learned a lot this last year. 2024 was huge in education for me and realization.
I feel like that's the story of the podcast, right? Like you having a level up year of, going from, like, it sounds like one, you elevated your why, which got you, which basically like kicked you into gear. And then you just started taking a bunch of like action and, like really leveling up the business in a year, man. I feel like that's, like I think talking about like the pros and cons of having a maintenance company or whatever is one part of it, but I think that's what really interests me to have like that conversation. So I'm in Nashville right now, meeting with some of my best friends and people that have been on the show, right? Stacy Sale here, Jen Rulins, Lacey and Alex, Lacey Hendricks and Alex Whiteoff. And we just had this like deep conversation about kind of like what are people worried about when it comes to adopting something like a AI agent that could like really, really revolutionize your business and bring you like these incredible results. And, Jen told me, she's like, man, it's just such a big reputational risk. Like, what if this thing fails? And I agree with her. We think about that a lot at Vendoroo. So we have completely changed our onboarding in a way that is the most supportive process you could possibly imagine. This is how it goes, right? We spent the first 2 weeks when you sign on, there's an onboarding cohort, meaning you're going through this like instructionals on Monday, on Wednesday, on Friday, on Monday, and then the following Wednesday, me and Nick are showing up and giving you like an orientation of the different things that you're going through together, from like when you're signing up and what you're signing up for, to meeting the different AI teammates and what you need to know, to like how this is going to impact your business, to kind of like how to think about it, what other help you're going to need, those kinds of things. In between those meetings, you're meeting with a personal AI coach, right? Like our onboarding people are not customer success people. They're AI coaches that are coaching you how to onboard it. So you're having an individual meeting between those that's plugging things and like getting your hands dirty and then showing up and sharing best practices. And that lasts for about 2 weeks, right? So that's like an intensive kind of like cohort learning periods, along with meeting with your AI coach and getting like an understanding, hands-on understanding of it. And people kind of lose their mind with it. Like we just got a message from somebody that's like, man, these cohorts and the way that y'all are doing it, it's so different and it's so valuable because it's like a deep level. It's not like buying a software and learning how to use it. It's onboarding a new teammate and then like training them and like having the coaches there that are helping you talk to it and get to know them and whatever. After that, for 2 weeks, you're still meeting a couple times a week with your AI coach, because what you're doing is like you're looking at what the AI is doing and making decisions, and the AI coach is talking you through how to ask it questions like, hey, why'd you do this? Like, oh, actually, if I want you to do it like this, and this is how you talk to it, right? Like, oh, look how interesting is this? It took this decision because of this and that. Get you to really understand the logic and train your new employee for 2 weeks in a way that like 4 weeks in, you have somebody that you really trust making decisions. And then we stay in that cadence of like weekly meeting with your AI coach until you get to 85% automation, right? So like that might take a little longer or a little less long, depending on kind of what you already have in place. But those AI coaches continue to stay with you, continue to help you train your new employee until you get there. And then you go into like account management, and you can always take a meeting with this AI coach. So I just wanted to share what that onboarding feels like, so that you understand that this is not just like buying a software and then figuring it out on your own. This is truly onboarding a new member on your teammate with like a support staff that helps you get to know it, train it, introduce it to other people and stuff like that. I just wanted to share that because it sounded really important from these conversations I'm having here in Nashville. Enjoy the rest of the conversation with Rob, who, by the way, is a super happy client. You're going to find out about that later in the show.
I think there's plenty of operators out there that find themselves in my position. I didn't, this was not a lifelong dream of mine to own a management company and be a property manager and all those things. It fell into my lap when I was trying to reconnect with my dad at some point in life. We got along, but we could have gotten along better when I was younger. You know, I was
Yeah.
rebelling and shit. I was driving my parents nuts, all those things. So it didn't take till much later on in life that I'm like, I needed my relationship with my dad, you know.
Mm.
So when I was in a dead end job, I was working for the auto salvage industry. I just hit a brick wall, and I'm like, man, there's no advancement for me here. I need something different. You know, I just met Leslie, and you know, we're starting off, you know, really young, and so I called my dad up, and you know, was like, hey, can I come work for you if I got my real estate license? And he said yes, and it was just like it was cool to come in there, but it was his company. I was just there to do whatever I was told, and wasn't making much money at all. We were still struggling, but there was a little bit of freedom, and I was doing something different. Property management. I had my own book of properties and just dealing with my own tenants and owners and stuff like that, and still fighting with my dad. That was kind of fun. But like I said, I think there's enough operators out there that they're they're kids of the parents that, you know, in the end, the kids have it, you know, and they may not have, that might not have been their career dream, you know,
Yeah.
but when it does fall in your lap, you know, make something of it, in other
Yeah.
words. So, yeah,
What are the lessons like are your kids already old enough to be working in the business?
close. No, I'm kidding. 12 and 16.
Are you what lessons would you take from working with your dad? Like if you're gonna bring the kids into the business, right? Like you're kind of talking about this like legacy idea and
Mhm.
having it last for a really, really long time. What lessons would you take into that based on like your experience of like helping them kind of like get behind the business and find meaning in it like you're finding now?
The hardest lesson is when you're actually growing up and you're starting to understand the business and you've got ideas. A lot of times your parents, they don't want to fucking hear your ideas. They don't care. They've been running the business for a long time. So any of your little new things, they're not going to try it or they're going to be super resistant to it. So you get this, I would imagine it would drive off most kids in the end if they're thinking long term there because I'm just going to battle my parents and this isn't fun no more and stuff like that. But it took my relationship with my dad and my dad's trust in me when he was still here near the end took a turn in that he was receptive to my ideas because we tried some and they worked out great, you know, and it's stuff that I learned at NARPM. He just was he was there at the conferences doing instruction, you know, he wasn't actually sitting in the meetings sometime or in the breakout sometime and stuff like that. So I pick up on some stuff and I tell him about it and I tell him, "Oh, Mike Menden's been doing it over here for 10 years like this. Why don't you do it, Dad?" And you know, back when early on, he just scoffed all those off, but later in the game, he started to be receptive, like I said, and then things started to turn out really good. And then it was getting near the point where I was almost had him gone for 6, 8 months a year with my mom, you know, sent just in a camper motorhome, just running the country for 6 months out of the year and stuff like that. And then he passed away at 69, and I wasn't even expecting it, never thought about that day coming. I use my dad as a crutch because in Texas here, you have to have a broker for your real estate operation to operate. Well, my dad passed away. We didn't have a broker. And then there's a big old story. Mike Mengden tells it in some of his classes where my dad and him had actually pre-planned a scenario that if something should happen to him, then Mike was going to be the designated broker of the operation until we figured things out. So when my dad actually passed away, Mike came up here and talked to me about that scenario right there. And we got with Trek and I got everything transferred over to Mike. So Mike was actually our broker for, well, it was 45 days to the day because I had a few classes to complete and then I had the state exam to complete before I got my broker's license. So on that day that I completed the state exam, I called Mike up and I fired him. Go, you fired, boy. So funny story.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
But all that to say, you know, it's like if you have kids that come in there, there's going to be a battle of the minds, and hopefully the parents are receptive to not all the kids' ideas are going to be terrible, you know, especially as technology and things just get advanced and these old minds kind of can't keep up with what's going on. You need new, fresh ideas in your companies to keep them going in the right direction.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is essentially, set up an environment where if you're trying to get your kids to be like gung ho in the company, set up an environment where you can allow them to test ideas and bring ideas. And it sounds like them being at NARPM sessions and bringing already validated ideas from someone else and then bringing them in to like own them feels like a pretty good kind of like guardrails for something like that. And
Yeah.
then also leaning into the technology piece as well, since they're probably going to be just more
Yeah.
tech forward than
Like
generation.
right now, at 49, I'm struggling with, I mean, just, we use Vendoroo, obviously, and I still struggle with just figuring it out sometimes. It's just so mind-boggling and it's so deep and just there's so many different trenches and stuff to go down. It's a lot for me to keep up in my head when I'm thinking about fishing and off-roading and a bunch of other stuff. So it's like, all right, well, my mind's just trying to use best use of its space sometimes, and then I'm like, all right, well, I don't care about that. I'm just gonna go on and figure it out later. But where I'm going with that is like I have in a plan that I need a technology person, a hire at some point to keep up with these things so I don't have to bog my mind down doing it because it's getting to be a struggle trying to keep up with all the notions, the scribes, all these apps that are coming out and all these
Mhm.
things, for our property management industry. It's just like head spinning a lot because of it.
Yeah, it's a lot. There's just like I wonder how it compares to other spaces, right? Like I feel like the property management industry is just kind of like so ripe for these technological solutions to come into them based on how much everything has changed in the last like five years, 10 years.
It's too
Um,
much though. I mean, if you ask any operator right now,
yeah,
there's like too much and too many, to be honest.
yeah.
It's you guys come out with, I mean, you guys as a blanket term for the vendors,
Vendors.
or
Yeah,
and then new vendors coming in, everybody's got an idea and they want to run with it and it's cool. We're an environment to test and try those things, but it does become overwhelming for the property managers,
for sure.
at least for me. But I would beg to differ that there are, others are, way different than my thought too. So.
Yeah, no, man. I echo with you, right? Because I'm just not a very technical person. Like I'm not like the guy that loves to tinker with tools and stuff like that, right? So it's
Mhm.
like I go through similar things in my business and when I'm trying to kind of like level up this stuff. How did you what tools have you added in the last year and like why did you add them if when there's like all these like things that are overwhelmingly coming at you, like how do you decide?
We did too much last year, but we did it all. We rejuvenated our lead simple, which we tried to build a handful of years back, and we just couldn't ever get it off the ground. So rejuvenated our lead simple, worked with PM Path Builders to build our SOPs and our processes into lead simple. We brought in Vendoroo. We brought in two new employees last year, at least two. We restructured our company structure into a pod hybrid department system rather
Hmm.
than a portfolio. We brought in 401ks for our employees. We brought in health insurance for our employees. There's more. There's more. I'm just running short
Damn,
on,
dude.
dude.
Yeah. So
I
how
was
did how did you manage
exhausted.
that? Like
I,
what's
it,
the tell me
I don't
tell me
know.
more. Yeah.
I don't know. I was like totally exhausted mentally by the December that I was
Yeah.
just like, again, it was just like, it was too much and I was beginning to lose interest in it. But luckily for me, I have an individual here, Mason, you know him, our
Yeah.
BDM, and I've got his 1 foot in our operations manager role, and he's got that young mind, and he actually brings things to the table that I struggle bringing to the table. So we work real good together to bring in all these new things. So luckily, I've been able to kind of use him as a crutch to help with all those things. And then now with him, where I've got him running our team meetings now, I backed off of that. I used to run our team meetings, so the atmosphere is changing, and it's pretty cool. We did, like I said, we did a lot last year. It was a success. I don't ever want to do that again like that.
Yeah.
But I would say 2024 was a success because I learned a lot. And as we talked about on the maintenance end, 2024 was a big turnaround for that too. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man, I'm so echoing with this, right? Like I find myself like I'm sick right now, right? Like I was sick a month ago. I never get sick. And I feel like it's
Oh,
like I just bit off. I feel like 2025, I've just like burned white hot, like just like
mhm.
nonstop.
I,
And I'm now paying the toll and I'm having a
I was
hard
saying
time.
24 and I was meaning 25. I forget
Yeah.
that it's 20. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I got it. But yeah, man, I feel I just like empathize with it, right? Like I feel like it's super fulfilling to bite off more than you can chew and then actually chew it and digest it and like, and make something great. And yet I struggle with this idea of like you can't really stop, right? Like there's just kind of like there's kind of like this like once you set a certain level, then it's like that's the level and that's what you're expected to be at, whether it's like
Mhm.
internally or the people around you. How are you, you said that you felt like burned out at the end of the year. Like are you kind of like purposefully taking some time or like are you just kind of like grinding through it or what are you doing about it?
Oh yeah, I definitely have hobbies. Like I said, I can go fishing, I can go off-roading and stuff. So, a normal person would think that that's enough rest and relaxation and then turn around and get back to work and then work hard. So I have my outlets. So it's never been a juggle of that, it's just been like trying to keep myself really interested in what's going on over here sometimes because I get frustrated about I mean, I guess I've been doing this for 16, 17 years, something like that.
Yeah.
So, and we're at the point now where I really want these operations to run autonomously, little involvement or no involvement for me. So I mapped myself out another 5 years to
Hmm.
kind of be in here doing things, if that at all. I want some huge things to turn in the next 2 years to where I could legitimately just not be called on when
That's awesome.
needed.
And it
So.
sounds like Finding Mason was like a big unlock for you, huh? Like Mason's been like a real game changer for you.
So I worry about keeping him inspired because sometimes I'm just uninspiring at times,
Mm,
you have to be on to lead your team. So,
yeah.
but I'm working on those deficits in my character and mannerisms and stuff like that. So hopefully I can keep him going. I think I can. He's kind of self-motivated. I don't have to do too much to keep him rolling. So as you can see, it's like just the mere, word podcast and do you want to
Yeah.
try it was just catalyst to, you know, what he's got going on. All of a sudden we're buying neon signs
Yeah.
and,
How's that going, by the way?
cameras
How's
and
how's how's the podcast going? So like I mean, by the way, obviously we're doing the podcast right now, right?
yeah, yeah, we are. I was
Like
going to
this.
ask, are you recording?
Yeah. I've been recording. This definitely turned into the podcast, even though we were just
Yeah.
gonna kind of catch up. So to catch
How's
up,
he
whoever,
doing?
huh?
I said,
Yeah,
you
yeah. I,
asked
was-
how he's
I
doing.
was just gonna say, like, for our friend that's listening right now, like I hosted this like content mastermind. I invited you into it, and kind of like, you were one of the folks that really like bid on it and launched the podcast, and you're doing it, right? So I'd love to kind of like hear how it's going.
So secretly, when you told me about it, I knew that I was going to be kind of a lame participant, but I knew that I needed him in there because that was going to be another trigger inspiration that I felt like was going to click him off, and it
Yeah,
did. So once he got in there, he got more. He got to see the inner workings of how it worked, and then all of a sudden he developed this plan in his head, and then I was like, all right, well, send me links of everything that you need. And then, of course, we're asking you what microphones, which,
yeah,
cameras, what do you think? Ask all these questions. And he's doing a bunch of research and watching a bunch of YouTube videos on actual podcasting. And then all of a sudden that day came and we're filming our first podcast. And I think he's doing one every 2 weeks and has
yeah.
been since we began. So I want to say he's on episode 6 or 7 like that. And we've
What's
got some
he?
cool.
Who's he having on? Is he out there networking, and then when he meets someone interesting, he brings them on, kind of thing?
So yeah, so the first podcast he had me on. So we just kind of talked about our company, the company, and then after that, hasn't really been about first choice. Of course, we have tie-ins to it, but he was trying to set up an interview to a local CPA. I don't
Hmm.
think he's gotten to that one yet. He's doing a lot of owner education stuff on his podcast to kind of educate owners on certain things that they may encounter. And then our next handful of podcasts, we're gonna do a podcast with each of our property managers, and we're gonna utilize that. We're going to cut it up to where when we onboard a property from a new owner, we're going to link them to the podcast video of their property manager. Hey, check them out. So in that podcast, we're hoping to have some, look behind the curtain of who your property manager is, because we've got, one of our property managers, Angela. She's a Iron Woman runner. I mean, she does those triathlons. I don't know how many marathons. She's got like walls full of medals of running and biking and swimming and stuff like that. So she's an interesting individual, but nobody would know that unless you got into a deep conversation with her. So we're going to highlight those hobbies and stuff that are property. We just think it's going to make a real warm connection for a 10-minute video if our onboarded owner will watch it, to get to know their property manager before the property manager calls them and wants to meet them at the property. So
I love it. I love it. I call that table setting, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
this, right? Like I love that move. I think so many people, when they think of podcasts, they're just thinking about like an audience and, who's listening or whatever. They don't think of
Mhm.
creating these like very deliberate things that you can use over and over to build relationships. That's brilliant, man. That's really cool that you guys are doing that. That's awesome.
So we're about to start rolling on that here the next week or so. At least do one of the
Nice.
first ones. So,
That's cool, man.
but Mason's hitting it hard. I love it. He's a very inspired individual. So
That's cool. How do you incentivize them? Like like how do you keep a guy like that, man?
I wonder that myself, because all of my colleagues around here, they're like, "Oh man, I'm gonna talk to Mason." They're kind of joking around, I hope, but I definitely understand the allure. So how do I keep him? You may have to ask him. There might be something that he wants, and he's about to bust around the corner and ask me for and corner me. But right now,
Well,
I
well,
think we got
why do
everything
you
we
think he
need.
works for you, man?
The environment. I mean, I give them. Everybody wants responsibilities. Everybody wants to be able to show success. He gets these opportunities, like when I, just let him start running the team meetings. He stepped up to that, and it was just like day one was just level 10 stuff, and I was like, all right, I put him in the right seat. So I just keep giving him more things that I think he would be interested in doing. Just support too. I mean, I
Yeah.
always been there for them, him, and then our team environment. Everybody just works with everybody really well, and they look
Yeah.
up to Mason. So he gets to feel that love, I suppose, that need.
What do you think created your team environment, right? Like it sounds like you have like a really good culture inside of your company.
I do. I do. I worked
Yeah.
real hard in that. And it's based off of this simple thing that if I found and this is me thinking younger, going through jobs working for other people, I had jobs that were cool and I had jobs that hopefully sucked. Everybody does. Everybody runs through that. So you get to meet these leaders, quote unquote, your managers and stuff that you follow, and then some are inspiring to you and others are not. Well, through my many job changes through the years, I was able to see a bunch of different leaders and how they leaded. So I told myself, if I was ever put in a position to lead, whether it was a supervisor or a manager or somewhere or anything like that, I was going to want to lead in an environment that I know I would want to work in. So the way I talk to everybody here, the way I deal with them, the way, if there's, I, people don't know this about me, but I'm a very good shade tree mechanic. Meaning, since I was 15 years old, I've been rebuilding motors, taking cars apart. I can tear apart anything and put it back together. So the culture, like I said, is I wanted to. Okay, here's where I was going with this: is because I can take things apart, I can diagnose a lot of auto stuff. So like my maintenance technicians, my property managers, when they have car issues or anything like that, they might ask me a question. I'll just go in there, grab the tools out of my truck, and I'll be fixing their cars in the parking lot over here. And I've done that multiple times. So I'm able to give that, and it's outside of work. It has nothing to do with work, but I'm able
Yeah.
to provide something that's very helpful to people. And I love doing that. When somebody comes to me with a car problem, I'm like, pop your hood. Let's go check it out. I've changed radiators in our parking lot
Yeah.
on my employees' cars. So just like I said, I'm living every day like I would want to be, just treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
My business coach, he calls it bringing your whole self to work. And it sounds like you do that, man. And I
yeah,
think in
not just
general,
work, Rob, but
yeah, you bring your whole self to work. And
all day long, Rob.
I feel like you're just a guy that radiates that energy, man. Like from getting to know you, right? Like you're just kind of like very genuine. You're not trying to be something you're not, and easy to talk to, and like I don't know, man. I like and sincere, right? Like I think when we're like walking in Colorado and you're like, oh yeah, man, me and Leslie, like we really like you, man. You know, like most people don't say that, you know, like
You're a good dude.
um
Well, I got good vibes from you, man. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know
yeah.
what to tell you. I mean, if people would, I know a lot of, back talking and stabbing goes on, in
Yeah.
our associations and just in our industry in general, and sometimes you hear things about people and then you just develop a judgmental position of them, and really and truly until you actually go and talk with them, what you don't know for sure. So I always leave that open for myself. I try not to be judgmental whenever I'm reading somebody's post or something like that, and reading people. I just blow all that off. It doesn't matter to me. If I want to know what somebody's like, I want to talk to them.
Yeah.
I want to feel their energy is really what it is. I've always been pretty good about, like, if I'm around somebody that I just met and I just don't trust them very much, the hair on the back of my neck sticks, and then I'll be quiet and everything, but I will actually sit there and watch that person unfold and go, oh, that's why I had that
Yeah.
feeling right there. And I didn't have any of those feelings with you, Pablo. So
I appreciate that. I'm glad I don't make
yeah.
the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. You know, man, related to that is the idea. Man, I remember when, we left Tony Klein's event and you're like, I'm gonna give Vendoroo a shot. I felt these like real feelings of like, man, I feel like the story I told myself was like, you gave Vendoroo a shot because you liked me. And I felt this like deep sense of like weight of, man, he's gotta succeed. I gotta do whatever I can to help it happen. And it's a weird feeling to me that I get sometimes with people, man. I can definitely mention like four or five other people that I really get the sense that that's what happened. And then I'm always just like super insecure about their customer journey, right? Because it's like it's technology and there's like a million
Yep.
variables, man. So like, how has that gone, man? Has it met your expectations?
So before I went on the retreat, I was looking into the any sort of maintenance help that I could get in the maintenance
Yeah.
company because we were spiraling,
Hmm.
just things weren't as good as they could be. So I already had when Tony invited me and Leslie and I already had in my mind I need to do something on the maintenance. So we're looking at all these little maintenance companies to help me organize and all that stuff. And then when I looked on the guest list, I saw that I hadn't even met you yet, from Vendoroo is going to be there. Well, you're one of the companies that I looked at the conferences to see if your services could help us out, my problems.
Yeah.
So already going into it, I knew I needed something, and then our connection there, and then a deeper explanation of what Vendoroo could do for us solidified the deal pretty easily. I was, if everything sounded good when I got to the retreat and I talked to you, then we had already kind of made the decision
Oh,
that
okay.
we were going to move forward.
That's cool. All right.
So, and the hairs on my neck didn't stand up, so that passed the sniff test.
So what was at that time, Rob, like there wasn't a lot of property managers were hiring us to do maintenance, but not people with maintenance departments were like hiring.
Yeah, I think I've thrown it
So
all for a loop.
yeah, so I was just really curious about kind of like how you thought about it. Like what was just curious kind of like what you were thinking and how it's gone in general.
It's gone great. Definitely been an adjustment. I had to train, or actually, we had to train the thought process of our maintenance coordinators that they're less coordinating things and they're
Hmm.
more operational. Like you're
Yeah.
just moving piece, making sure everything's moving where it's supposed to go. So you're just
Yeah.
watching the operation, looking for things that are failing, figuring out
Hmm.
what caused it to fail, and then call in those adjustments to it. So once I got my maintenance coordinators thinking at that level, I was like, the AI is another maintenance employee. Tell it what to do. This is your subordinate. This is your assistant. Now you're telling it what to do. Instead of calling that tenant, tell it to call that tenant. Tell it to, or communicate with that tenant, and then you go on to doing these things that I need you to get these estimates done, get these invoices done,
Hmm.
spend more time doing that and less time of just the like we got an insight. We get the insights every week for ours,
Hmm.
and our insights this week was, where is it? I mean, one of the first things that y'all display is 85% of our work orders were managed without our involvement. And that's an insight that comes in. Before then, that 85% was on my maintenance coordinator's
Yeah.
shoulders.
Yeah.
It's like, holy cow, that is a huge percentage. And then that gets you realizing, the efficiency of the program, and then and solidifies, my decision that I made the right move on this. We're loving it. I
That's
mean,
cool, man. What,
yeah.
what what was the hardest part? Like, what was the were there like tough moments where you're like, I'm not sure if this is right, or like moments of confusion that we could have done better?
Nothing. I guess when I was coming in, y'all were restructuring, or you had some levels that you were trying to do, and they were when I signed on quickly, y'all had changed some things, so I didn't realize I missed out on some stuff. And then when I would talk with our, you guys assigned a Pablo, or sorry, Juan to us. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And I would tell him, man, it'd be great if it did this. He goes, oh man, that was the, you signed on to this program here, and we just made some changes, and it's over here. So
Hmm.
we had to reevaluate our structures, and then make some adjustments. So I added some levels of service that we needed to. So
Hmm.
and it's not a knock on it or anything like that. It just, when I got in there and we start kind of feeling how the program's going, and then I start realizing the possibilities
Yeah.
that the AI can do. I mean, you don't realize, I had like four things or three things that I really needed it to do, and there's 300 things that it can do.
Yeah.
So I went in really with horse blinders on, hoping and praying that this was going to be, a right move. I shoot from the hip.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't plan things out too much sometimes, and it ended up being a good move. So I wouldn't say, Pablo, there's been any real issues like that. The biggest issue is if you have a mind like mine, where I kind of struggle wrapping my mind around all this new tech, and it's just another new thing, understanding what it can do. And with the AI, it's not an app. It's not like you do all these things, and I don't know. It's just different.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to understand exactly what it can do for your company, you kind of got to get in there and just work it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely like I find that this wave of like the agentic AI revolution, like it's built for tinkerers, right? Like it's so different that if you're not in there kind of like messing with it, you know, you're you're gonna revert back to this idea of like, oh, it's an app and I can do these three things with it, when in reality it's 300 things that you can do with it, and you're not gonna uncover that if you're not like
Mhm.
getting your hands dirty in it.
So I've had to fight with my PMs and some of my maintenance coordinators, just based off of old ways of doing things and
Yeah.
old ways of thinking, because it is another step sometimes, versus the PM could just, if the tenant's asking something, the PM could just go look it up real quick, give it to what the tenant needs, and then they can do it. But they don't realize they're taking time out of their day, even though they think it's real quick in their head, they could just do it and be done.
Yeah.
I had to fight with them and go, no, don't do that anymore. Tell the maintenance, our AI to
Yeah.
get that done for you, or stuff like that. So when we were bringing in, really, when we were building the pod structure on
Hmm.
how that was going to operate with the AI, because we went from, and this kind of circles back on the conversation about that, our company, because we had in-house maintenance technicians and I utilized subcontractors too, and we're a separate company. We're not a division of the management company. You guys
Hmm.
had to like kind of split everything out and then rebuild, and build new structures that covered. And then I changed and we started doing these pods, so y'all had to adjust again. That covered, okay, now the AI's got to recognize the pods, it's got to recognize who's inside the pods, it's got to recognize how to find the information on who's responsible for the address that's tied to the pod, and all kinds of things. And you guys have been real great help with that. Juan, I just tell him what's going on, he goes, all right, I know what to do. And
Yeah.
then a couple days later, he's like, everything's working, I guess. And I'm like, okay. And I don't even go in there and check on Juan and if everything works or not. I just trust that it does. And then I wait to
Yeah.
hear if there's any problems from my employees, and everything's been quiet and good. So,
That's cool, man. Yeah, Juan is our Mason.
yeah. Oh,
Like,
is he?
yeah, dude, Juan's a beast, man. Juan, like I'm always very impressed with Juan's like capacity, his level of care, and his just like motor, man. It's really impressive.
I love his
Um,
nonchalantness. He's
huh?
just kind of nonchalant on probably
Yeah,
90%. Yeah, no problem. Got it.
yeah, yeah. And he's a real laid back
Yeah,
dude, right?
yeah,
Like he's a real
yeah.
laid back dude that just gets a lot done.
Yeah,
That's
that's
cool,
cool.
man. It's interesting. It's interesting that you're talking about. I think one of the big mental shifts is what you're highlighting, right? Like I think in property management, and we get this from some prospects, right? Like in property management, a lot of the value that people derive from their job today comes from like the doing of tasks, right? And it's a real like mental shift to go from like letting go of those tasks that were, what where you thought your value was to like moving into that strategic layer and delegating, right? It's like that doing that with an AI is just as hard as doing it with an employee, right? Like even like I have
Yep.
a hard time kind of like delegating to people in general. So this is that plus it's like this new technology that's like that you don't that like it sounds like a movie, right? Like it's
Yep.
crazy. Yeah, that's
So
cool.
and one of the things that happened or didn't happen to me, but changed for me in 25 was my delegations too. Finally, Tony had been beating it into my head. You got to step back. You got to, get out. So finally, one day I was like, all right, nobody contact me.
Yeah,
Don't ask me those questions that you think you're going to figure them out yourself, or you're going to get a different response from me. And it's basically going to turn the question back around on you to, give yourself some good options and pick the best option and run with it. And, hopefully it works. So, I was able to really look at the things I was doing here and let go of a bunch of things so that I could actually turn around and concentrate on things like the failing maintenance company and stuff like that. So being able to do that allowed it was a lot easier for me to tell everybody, hey, stop thinking like this. Here's how you need to think because you got to work. Here's how you got to work with the AI. It's your tool, it's your assistant, it's your,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
delegate the things that you would normally do, and it can do most of them, I promise you. So it's been beautiful.
That's cool, man.